Hello and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Kaylee, and on this channel I cover all things true crime, travel, lifestyle, and just generalized vlogs. But you have stumbled across our true crime section of the channel, so I just want to give you a warning. True crime is not for everybody. You may be offended or be upset by some of the details that come out during cases, and if you think this might be the case for you, maybe just try and skip to another video, because like I said, true crime is not for everybody, and I don't want you to be offended by today's video or today's case. Over 70% of our viewers are not actually subscribers, so please feel free to hit that subscribe button down below. It really does help our channel grow, and it will give you a notification for when we upload next. If you would like to see a certain case covered on the channel, please drop it in the comments below and I will most certainly do my best to go and research that case. But now I want to jump straight into today's case, which is all about Rachel Barber. Rachel was born on the 12th of September in 1983 to Michael and Elizabeth Barber. She was the oldest of three girls, and the entire family was very artsy. In the family there was a toy maker, a musician, an artist. The family really loved the arts world. And Rachel, she was no different. She was a born dancer. Now, she loved to dance right from a very young age. She would perform dance routines in front of friends and family, and pretty much anyone that would watch, she would love to perform for. Rachel eventually started to dance at the Melbourne Dance Academy, and at the age of 14, she did a 2-week modelling course. Now, at the end of this modelling course, she was featured in Health and Lifestyle magazine. Now, her passion for dance and modelling and things like this, it never ceased as she grew older. And after much deliberation with her parents, she was able to leave school early and go and join into the Dance Factory Academy and started dancing full-time. In May of 1998, Rachel met Manny and the pair became a beautiful couple. Now, their friends would lovingly mock them and say that they were very cute and cutesy and were always seen together, and basically were Romeo and Juliet. They were just a very loving, affectionate couple. Now, every morning, Rachel's parents would drive her to the tram stop so that she could catch the tram to go to dance school. Now, Rachel, she was not one to go, she wouldn't go on public transport unless she knew the route that she was going to take. She was very self-conscious and things like that. She wouldn't, her routine wouldn't change just out of the blue. She would always sort of have a fixed idea of what was going to happen throughout her day. But on March 1st, 1999, Rachel was 15 years old at this point. Now, this morning, she got dropped off at the tram, and little did anyone know it would be the last time her father, Michael, would drop her off at the tram. It was to be the last time that her family ever seen her alive. Later that evening, Michael was going to pick up Rachel from their agreed location, and unfortunately, Rachel was never there. It did not take long for Michael to start to panic and go home and start contacting her friends and things like that to see if anyone had seen her. Michael and Elizabeth also rang the police, and the very next morning, there were missing posters going up all around the surrounding suburbs. The police were involved almost straight away, and they started to question Manny, who was still Rachel's boyfriend, and their circle of friends. During the questioning of Rachel's friends and fellow classmates, it was discovered that Rachel had in fact left school at 5:35 with her friends, and they had all headed towards the tram stop. But unlike every other night, Rachel said to her friends that she was catching a different tram and she was going in a completely different direction, and that she had planned to meet her old friend, Caroline Robertson. Caroline was born on the 3rd of November 1978, and she was born into a financially stable home, but she was also born into a troubled home. Now, it was later discovered that she was very self-loathing. She did not have high hopes for herself. She really just didn't have that sort of... She had no self-love. She didn't appreciate her own self-being, and it was just relevant in all aspects of her life growing up. But Caroline had known Rachel for a good couple of years at this point. So back in 1996 to 1997, Caroline actually used to babysit Rachel and her two sisters when they were younger. And then in late 1997, Caroline arranged with Rachel to take some photographs of her. Now, Caroline said to Rachel that these were for a project that she was working on, and Rachel was really into the modelling at this point, so she thought it was a fantastic opportunity. we discover later on that Caroline starts to get a slight obsession with Rachel. Throughout Caroline's entire life, she was basically a loner. She did not have a very big circle of friends at all. Even her work colleagues sort of said that she stayed alone and by herself. She lived in an apartment by herself, and she could hold down a stable job as a telecommunications person, but her circle of friends and her social life, she just really kept it to herself. She was basically a loner. But in December of 1998, now this is a good time before Rachel's disappearance, Rachel's younger sister Ashley gets a call from Caroline, and she wants to know what Rachel's birth date is. She tells Ashley Rose that it's for a project that she's working on, and she does give Caroline the information. It is later discovered that Caroline actually applies for a copy of Rachel's birth certificate. And then, the night before Rachel's disappearance, it is discovered, and Rachel's mum Elizabeth remembers that Caroline has been on the phone twice to Rachel that evening, with calls ranging from 15 to 30 minutes. All of this was, in the forefront of where could Rachel be. During the police investigation, one of Rachel's friends gives a description of the person who was seen with Rachel on the day that she disappeared. So instead of going home with her friends on the tram, she went to the other tram stop. The person that was with her at this other tram stop, the description matched Caroline. So then on Friday, March 12th, the police go to Caroline's apartment. Now they knock on the door and they ring the phone number, and there is no answer and nobody comes to the door. Eventually, after getting the fire department to come and open the unit for them, the police find Caroline laying on the floor unconscious. During this time, the police also find a bag of clothes belonging to Rachel and the application for the birth certificate, which again is in Rachel's name. Once Caroline recovered, she was taken into police custody, and it is at this point in time that she confesses to murdering Rachel. Now, I want to go through the events of what happened on that day, but please remember, these are the events told by Caroline. So even though the police have confirmed the majority of these details, there are some details that the police cannot confirm, and it is just based on what Caroline has said has happened. Caroline had indeed been the person that met Rachel at the tram stop, and she had told Rachel the previous day that she had a job for Rachel. Now, there are two different stories on what this job was. One person has said that the job was $100 for doing a survey, and another person has said that Rachel during the day told them that it was a $500 job to do a survey for psychology. Now, we're not sure which one of those stories, but you get the drift. Rachel was going to do what she thought was work. But Caroline, she had actually plotted to kill Rachel long before the night before. And when Rachel arrived at the apartment with Caroline, she strangled her to death with a telephone charging cable. It's later discovered throughout this timeline of events that a neighbour hears screaming coming from Caroline's apartment, but we don't know if the screams were actually from Rachel or if Caroline had sort of lost her mind after the fact, because Caroline does say that she blacks out and she does admit to having a panic attack after this has happened. So police are not sure who the screaming was coming from. Once Caroline had strangled Rachel to death, she left Rachel's body in her apartment for 2 days. Now, during this time, she was calling in sick to work every morning, and she'd also made a call to her father to say that she was sick and unwell. So her dad calls in to the apartment, and it's at this point that he said when he did go to visit Caroline, she made sure that her bedroom door was closed. Rachel's body at this point was in the cupboard inside of Caroline's bedroom. On the 3rd of March, Caroline decides that she needs to get rid of Rachel's body. She wraps her body up in 2 rugs and takes it from her apartment, which was in Paran, to her father's rural country property in Kilmore. It's here that Caroline digs a shallow grave right next to her deceased former pets, mind you, and places Rachel's body into the shallow grave, and it covers her up with dirt and sticks and leaves and things like that. Once she had disposed of Rachel's body, Caroline decides that she needs a $10,000 bank loan. Now, nobody is sure what her big plan was with this bank loan, whether she was going to try and leave or what was going to happen with this money, but she was denied from the Bank of Melbourne to get the loan in the first place. It was then 5:30 on Friday the 12th of March that the police go and find Caroline on the floor, and then the very next day the police go and find Rachel's body in the shallow grave in Kilmore. Throughout the investigation, police find a diary that Caroline had had for years, and basically this diary suggests that Caroline was not a well person at all. She had pictures of herself, like self-portraits, and she would just write horrible things about herself. And then there were entries in there about how she was going to murder Rachel and what she was going to do. Her obsession with Rachel had actually gone on for years, and she was just not a well young woman. Caroline did plead guilty, and she was sentenced to 20 years with a non-parole period of 14 years and 6 months. So now Caroline has actually been released. She did serve her 14 years and 6 months and was released on parole. Even though Rachel's parents, Michael and Elizabeth, did send a letter into the parole board begging them not to release Caroline, she was released, but in their letter to the parole board, they did say that they would like her to at least serve 18 years of her 20-year sentence, because during the trial she really showed no remorse, but that didn't matter, the parole board still released her. Elizabeth Barber has been quoted as saying that she doesn't believe Caroline is a threat to her or her family, but she also doesn't want her to be a threat to anybody else. When Caroline was released, it was also noted that she had changed her entire appearance. As she was younger and 19, she was more of a chubby sort of girl and with long hair. When she was released from prison, she had lost a lot of weight. She had cut her hair very short. She looked completely different. So who knows, she may now feel that remorse for her actions that had happened, and that was what the parole board had seen. Now, this case has had a lot of publicity over the years. There's even a movie about it. It's called In Her Skin. I highly recommend going and watching it if you are very interested in this case. It has a lot of detail and more sort of, well, you get to see it sort of play out in movie form. So if that's more your thing, I would highly recommend it. I don't even know what else I can really add to this case. I just want to share my deepest sympathies and condolences to Rachel's friends, family, and her entire community. She was a much loved young woman who had such potential just taken away from her. So my deepest sympathies to all of you guys. Again, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It really does help our channel grow. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.